All right, guys, welcome back. JL Scott Fishing. Hope everybody's doing well. We're going to talk a little bit about the Maryland Trout Stocking Program that has been in existence for a while. And I try to cover it, in the fall and winter time because that's when the water's cold and that's when predominantly a lot of the trout get stocked in Maryland. I know a lot of people don't cover it. A lot of people don't, especially don't cover it on YouTube and things like that with the trout stocking programs. And it's a shame because, a lot of times people are just misinformed about all the stocking programs, whether it be smallmouth or trout or things like that, especially in Maryland. The misinformation that exists that I always run into in our region, it just baffles me sometimes. I just don't understand where people are getting or think they're getting information from, that things aren't being done, that are being done, and where they're being done. For example, this week alone, 21,000 trout have been stocked in Maryland. Okay, just this week, right? And and a lot of people would be I get messages all the time, like, why are they not stocking here? Why are they not stocking there? And you go in the back end, you go on the site, you find out, well, they actually just stocked that lake 3 weeks ago with 2,000 rainbow trout or 500 golden or 250 brown, right? So people just don't know what that information is. So that's what I'm trying to do I've always tried to do with the web, with the YouTube channel, and on Facebook, is like just being a formative resource for people. And as much information that I get, I'm going to disseminate it out to everybody. And that's what we always try to do. I know some people don't like that. Some people think it's, or I've revealed too much, especially about floats and sections and launches and rivers and spots and all that stuff. But I can't fight that battle. I can only be a resource for people to get out there and enjoy our public resources. If they're public, I'm going to share it. If it's public information, I'm going to share it. If it's private information, private property, private access, private this, private that, I'm not going to share it. Okay? That's the nature of public and private. If you live in Maryland, your tax dollars are going towards all of this stuff. And so you have a right to that information and to know where these things are happening. So there is a Maryland Trout Stocking Activities Map. You can find that by just simply Googling Maryland Trout Stocking Program 2024, right, on Google. It'll take you to DNR for Maryland. It'll have all the links, all the people you can contact, all the questions, questions that have been asked predominantly in a frequently asked questions section. They've got this activities map. It shows you everything that you'll need to know about trout, okay? And why is that important if you don't fish for trout? And this is what happens that I always tell people. It's like you got to start thinking beyond the myopic views that so many people program us to have about fishing, okay? And a lot of that stems from tournament fishing. And, of course, there's nothing wrong with tournament fishing. And then some of it's commercial fishing. Like, people always have these segments of the community that kind of rail against each other, right? Well, I follow the trout stocking program, not only because I grew up fishing for trout, loved it. I've always enjoyed it. It's always kind of a break or a release, more of an adventure, to go out in a stream, in a creek and things like that to fish for trout, as opposed to going out and fishing for stripers or largemouth bass, or myself, smallmouth bass all the time. So it's a different change of pace a lot of times. And you're pretty much away from everybody. If you go up in the West Virginia and the mountains of Maryland or down in the valley in Virginia, you can be away from like it all. And it's just a great, great experience. But I mainly talk about trout in the context of my channels and my Facebook page, because trout becomes an integral component of forage. Okay, fingerling trout, and these trout species during the spring, and then also they stock in the fall, okay, they become a forage because a lot of times these trout are populated in creeks that run, maybe in feed, Jennings Run or Jennings Randolph of Maryland, like different areas that feed lakes, New Germany Lake, things like that they make their way in event, and for a certain period of time, they become targets of opportunity for other fish species, and then, a certain amount of them reach their maturation in all of that, in their new waters. And, and a lot of times you've got delayed harvest. You've got where, catch and release only sections of streams and rivers and places to protect the population. But you're not going to be able to protect that trout from a really nice sized predator, okay? That's just the natural game, okay? And so when they stock these areas, that becomes that component. So it's really, really important, I think, to understand, because then it's one of the only man supplied forage bases oftentimes in many places. Like, we're not really, although we are, I think in White Sulphur Springs, they are working on kind of repopulating the craw population, natural native population of craw species. We're not really stocking forage species like, you know what I mean, like we are the game fish, right? Why are we spending money to stock game fish? Because game fish, and trout is certainly one of those. Trout is a huge draw of economic dollars to the state of Virginia and Maryland. I would argue probably fundamentally more than bass, okay? In terms of tourism and ecotourism, at parks and all of that stuff, people come from all over the country for trout in West Virginia, whether it's Brookies, West Virginia, and Western Maryland, and Virginia in the Valley, okay? I mean, people come from everywhere, even Canada, outside of our country, to fish for the trout, all right? That's why more money a lot of times gets allocated in a lot of states for trout than for, say, largemouth or smallmouth bass programs, okay? Because they do generate a lot of ecotourism. And a lot of people miss that, especially on like podcasts and YouTube. They miss that business, that side of it. And plus the trout community is a lot more politically active. And you can get what you want when you're more politically active. Just turn on the TV and watch TV and watch the news. Okay, whether you agree with the politics or not of the day, the other side might be getting a lot more traction, a lot more money, and a lot more funding for all their stupid programs, right? If you're sitting at home or in your truck and you're not involved, okay? And so I get it. A lot of people send me messages all the time. Trout gets more love. Trout gets more funding. Trout. And it's like, but at the same time, Maryland was still stocking smallmouth bass, even when there were people out on YouTube talking about how they weren't. You know what I mean? And it's just like, and it's just fundamentally misinformation. So 21,000 trout, okay, have been stocked here. And on the activities map, what I have here, you can see, if you see the little fishes, that's just the trout that have been stocked in the month of February, okay? You can set that on the prior page when you log on to the map, how you want streams or creeks or rivers or lakes in the last month, okay? And then your blue dots on the screen are your predominantly areas of where trout are stocked, like a location, okay? And so just this week, 7,000 trout were stocked in Allegheny County and Baltimore County. So Allegheny County is way up here, and Baltimore County is between D.C. and Baltimore. Okay, so right in here is Baltimore County. Right in here is Allegheny and Washington County, okay, in Maryland. So in Allegheny County, Evetts Creek, they stocked golden and rainbow trout. Jennings Run, which is more down here, they stocked golden and rainbow trout. North Jennings Run watershed, golden and rainbow trout. So no browns in Allegheny County in that particular stocking effort. Okay, now in Baltimore County, most people are going to be very, very familiar with this one. Gunpowder Falls, a location that draws a lot of money from outside the state of people coming to visit that location, okay? Which is why trout gets stocked there. Okay, Gunpowder Falls, the upper portion, golden and rainbow, the lower portion, golden and rainbow, and then the little Gunpowder Falls this year got some golden and rainbow trout as well, okay? Now, also, as part of this 7,000 grouping of trout includes Montgomery County, okay, Montgomery County, Maryland, which includes Potomac, okay, Potomac, Maryland, runs right along the Potomac River, okay, outside of D.C., runs right along the Potomac River, okay, all the way up. All my videos on the upper Potomac are basically launched from a Montgomery County ramp or Pointed Rocks or Lander or Brunswick as you go further up, which is above Montgomery County, okay? And so that's going to give you an indication. Great Seneca Creek, okay, golden and rainbow trout. Seneca Creek, there's the park over there. There's also Lake Needwood that gets stocked a lot of times in Montgomery County. There's a park there. That is a lake with bass and also gets stocked with trout. Trout become forage for the bass. You can check out my fall 2 years ago video of Lake Needwood in the fall when they stocked in the fall, okay? And then up at Antietam Creek, very popular creek to get stocked, Devil's Backbone area, golden rainbow, and brown, okay? So that one is the only one who got the brown trout, okay? There's some reasons for that. We'll get into in future videos this spring as to why not as many browns are stocked, of course, as rainbows and goldens, okay? All right, let's continue in the next, okay? Tuesday, okay? 12,000 trout were stocked, okay, by Maryland. Think about that. They did 7,000 and then 12,000. Allegheny County again, Wills Creek, okay? And again, you can use this activities map. Just click on the fish, okay? It's going to tell you Savage River, okay? It's going to tell you the location, like 224, 221. That's this week, right? I haven't gotten to this one yet. Maybe it'll show up in here, okay? In this one. Because what I have set up is, not only do I have the activities map on my desktop, okay, on my laptop, my desktop at home, on my travel laptop, I also have it pegged to my email. So every time they stock, it gets sent to my email, okay? So I know where they're stocking. And wherever I am in the state, and this has happened, as long as it's open and you're allowed to fish it when they've stocked it, and a lot of times it tells you yes or no, you can, because you're not supposed to necessarily be it depends on what it is. Usually it's within 24 hours or so of their stocking date. Depending on where I am, I've got my phone and I could be out in the western part of the county fishing for smallmouth bass at Jennings Randolph Lake and then realize, oh crap, they stocked trout in the creek or whatever, 20 minutes away, 30 minutes away. On the way home, I could stop and I could fish for trout. Okay, make sure you have your licenses for everything that you need, and make sure you're fishing in public property, and make sure you're fishing licensable, and you've got everything, your trout, if you're in a state with trout stamps, if you've got all the things that you need to do, and make sure you're using the right baits, abiding by all those laws, okay? That's an important distinction that a lot of people miss when fishing for trout around the region. There's a lot more intricate laws regulating trout fishing than, say, typical bass fishing, okay? All right, so let's take a look at it. Allegheny County, Willis Creek, Golden Rainbow. Baltimore County, again, back to Baltimore. Patapsco, Daniels, okay? 2 per day. You're only allowed to take 2 trout out of that per day, okay? Again, there's one of those restrictions I'm telling you about. Brown, golden, and rainbow. So they got some brown up in Baltimore County finally, okay? Frederick County, okay? Middle Creek, brown, nice little place to go fishing, okay? Take a kid fishing, okay? Middle Creek. Back to Garrett County, all right? With Bear Creek, golden and rainbow trout, New Germany Lake, like I just have listed. 1,500 rainbow and golden trout into New Germany Lake. That's a really cool little place to go if you can make that trip up in Western Maryland. North Branch, Potomac River in Westernport, golden and rainbow. The Yacht in Friendsville, golden and rainbow. Yacht delayed harvest. Again, understanding what those means, okay? Delayed harvest. Understanding what it means of after it's been stocked, whether or not you're allowed to fish it, okay? Rainbow trout, all right? And now all those were in Garrett County again, okay? And so now we've got the latest, okay? 2,000 today. So 7,000, 14,000, and now 2,000 stocked, okay, today. Or open today. I think it was stocked yesterday, but available to be fished today. Again, the Yacht, okay, the Yacht River. Oakland, golden and rainbow trout, okay? Sliding Hill Creek, golden and Sidling, I always say sliding. Sidling Hill Creek, golden and rainbow trout, Washington County. So all of that, guys, is out here in the western part of the state where the water is extremely cold this time of year, right? It means even colder than in the central part of the state or down on the Potomac River in places like that, or the Monocacy River, okay? The water up in the mountains is cold. Still snow in some places, right? A lot of times. Okay, and so that's why you see a lot more stocking areas for trout, okay? like on the 2nd, sorry, on the 8th of February, okay, 300 rainbow trout were stocked in Frank bins, okay? And so it just tells you this information, okay? Piney Run Reservoir on the same day got 800 golden and rainbow trout. And so it's a great resource to utilize, okay? It's one of these things that I try to push on people. You know, the resources are out there for you, whether it's nautical, whether it's water depth, water clarity, water temperature, the rate, the rise, the depth of the water on our major river systems in the mid-Atlantic. All that stuff is readily available for you, okay? You just have to understand that unfortunately, there's not yet a site that's got everything linked together, okay? The kind of one place where you can go to just drop down menu it and find out what you need to find out, okay? We're working on it, okay? It's just a tedious process because there's so many different resources, from navionics to the nautical charts to the state resources to the regulations and the laws and private and public and ramp access. All these things that kind of come into play, which is probably why nobody's done it. Okay, that's not government. The government's not going to. Government should do it, but they do their best. A lot of times, the Virginia DWR site or the Maryland DNR, getting things, but not really things like connecting them all, right? And that's a trout stockings right now for February. Over 20,000 already stocked in February. I mean, and so they're out. Say it's cold, it's wintertime. We're all cold, hunkered down, right? We've had snow on the ground 3 or 4 times. Schools have been closed 2 or 3 times, right? But they're still out. They're still out stocking. They're still out getting ready for 2024 and getting these fish into the streams and in the creeks and into the lakes and rivers. Ultimately probably, feed other lakes, Deep Creek, Jennings Randolph, other reservoirs in the middle in Baltimore County, in the middle of the state. And so sometimes you just got to, sometimes it's like, we portray DNR and we portray our conservation side, negatively, I think, too much. And, a lot of times their programs are there. But you want to stay involved and you want to get engaged and involved. I mean, we've got a lot of stuff in Maryland now with rockfish, stripers, issues going on. You've got Manhattan, you've got all this kind of stuff going on out in the bay and in the tribs of the bay. That's very, very toxic politically for a lot of people, and especially fishermen, because of the laws being passed. And it's only going to get worse if you don't get engaged. Okay, it's just a fact. They're going to come for everything that they can take. Okay, in terms of certain groups. All right, that would just as soon not allow you to fish. Just as soon not allow you to have tournaments. Just as soon not allow you to be able to take fish during certain times of the year, like spawn, or schedule a tournament on the bay during the spawn or in any of the tribs. And all this stuff, is happening, and a lot of people are unaware. And then you get blindsided by it, right? Or then you get misinformation about, like up in Pennsylvania with Racedown Lake, doing away with tournament fishing on the lake, which was absolute ridiculousness. All they had to do was actually contact the people and read the information actually from the Army Corps of Engineers, from Pennsylvania, from the Boat Commission, from all that stuff to find out that wasn't true. And then just go on a tournament schedule. All I do is, if you're an angler, if you're a kayak angler, go on Tourney X. You see that the elite kayak fishing from the Northeast has Racedown in Pennsylvania scheduled on their 2024 schedule. So how can you not be able to have kayak bass fishing tournaments or boating tournaments on a lake when everybody already has these things already scheduled on their schedules, and they all know that their tournaments were approved. So, again, misinformation. After a while, it just kind of gets, you just kind of look, you just kind of have to say, hey, I can't support that. I can't continue. You can't continue to fuel those places where misinformation is being generated when you can go to the actual source. Like, you can go to the Maryland Trout Stocking Activities Map. You can go to the regulations page for Maryland, Pennsylvania, Virginia, West Virginia, the changes to different species and creel and catch and all that stuff. It's there. You just have to be able to take time. And I get it. I just, I basically just had a conversation yesterday with KBF with Chad Hoover about like, it's in the rules. Even to me, he's like, bro, it's in the rules. Like, it's like, so it's like, you know what? We're all kind of like, you know, we don't read rules. We don't read regulations. We don't read, you know, press releases, right? We just immediately jump. That's what social media has done to us. It's caused us to be really quick in, you know, knee-jerk emotional responses to comments and posts without actually doing and reading the actual information that's out there. And I'm guilty of that too at times. And so I know it's human nature. So this is that information for you guys. For Trout, I'll keep it coming. I got some other things in the hopper this year, especially for Trout, for the page, because I do have a small contingent of people that want more Trout stuff, you know, on the Facebook page and on the YouTube channel. So we got some things coming up where hopefully I'm gonna get paired up with some guys, you know, that are basically trout hammers. I'm not a trout hammer. I'm a trout enthusiast. I just love to go out, catch trout, make the runs to New York, make the runs for salmon, the salmon run in New York, steelhead. It's just fun, but I certainly am not a hammer at that. But I'm definitely an enthusiast because I love it. Love the experience because it's not something I get to do every day, you know, where I am. You know, we're more smallmouth bass and largemouth bass centric, and then, you know, a couple trips out to the bay, you know, to go out, fish for some rockfish or striper, that kind of stuff. So, all in all, that's where we're at. Again, this information is readily available to you. I will link it, okay, either here on my Facebook page, JL Scott Fishing and Eats. Hop on over there and just follow that. I do a lot more stuff on Facebook than I do on YouTube, believe it or not. You know, in terms of resources and information, because some of it just doesn't come through like in video form, I know. But I know a lot more people prefer video, but, you know, we'll see how it goes. But this is your February Maryland trout stocking activities, Matt. 21,000 trout stocked just in the last 3 weeks, or 2.5 weeks, about 3 weeks, for the month of February. All right, guys, I'll see you on the other side.